Hey everyone, it's Karla with Karla Kay Art. Thank you for tuning in to my YouTube channel. I'm an artist that specializes in hand-painted silk. Today, in the video that I'm going to be showing you, it's all about how I made this scarf behind me, this owl in this nature setting. And it's actually a picture that I derived from a short video I took of an owl that was in a ravine near our home. So I'm going to try and put some of that video in here as well so you can see what the actual owl looks like. So if you like this video, press the thumbs up button. If you want to get notifications about when I put out new videos, press the subscribe button. There is no cost to subscribe. It just allows you to get notifications. And sit back and relax and enjoy the video.
Hey everyone, this is a picture of the owl as it sat in the tree in the ravine behind my house. Hey everyone, so this is the owl. I'm told it's a barred owl that was in a ravine near our house, and I liked it so much I took some video and some pictures of it, and I'm going to put the image on silk. So initially I drew the image on Procreate on my iPad. It's a software program that allows you to draw and paint. And then I take the iPad and I just stick it into the silk and I trace it with a soft pencil. I'm very lucky that the iPad is 12 inches and my scarf designs are 12 inches. I decided to do this particular piece portrait, even though the video is all landscape, because I thought people might want to hang it on the wall in addition to just wearing it. And here I show how I sometimes use a small black crate. It's the perfect height to set it underneath the silk when I need the design to be more stable when I'm tracing it. And I don't trace every single line that I've drawn. I draw all the critical pieces so that I make sure that the design is wholly featured on the silk and part of it is not left off the side of the silk. And I draw key features. I really liked the way this snail came out, so I wanted to make sure I had it the right size and in the right place, and some of the surrounding flowers and the log that it is sitting on top of were all drawn correctly. But I draw really quickly. Again, I'm drawing very lightly. I don't intend for these pencil lines to stay in the silk. So I get asked a lot about how I transfer the resistance into the smaller container, and I just pour it in. I thought I'd do a short video of it there. And here I am putting the resist on the silk. So here I am. I just, the resist, I keep it thin to a level that it flows very easily out of the container with very little pressure. In fact, if I leave it upside down, the resist will actually drip out of the container. So I want it to flow out really quickly. I want it to maintain its black color. If you thin it too much, it will not maintain its black color. And if you thin it too much, the lines will actually get whiter. So you have to really use some on-the-job training here when it comes to applying the resist, because the harder you press the bottle, the whiter the lines will get. And I apply as many details as I think I need, leaving spaces open because I like to do some dye work to show how the dyes can work. I don't want my picture to be all just lines. I want there to be some shading and some mixing of colors. So here I am drawing one of the little green branches that framed the owl. And here is a mushroom, a fungi. They grow rather prolifically on the trees around here. My studio is about an hour north of Seattle, Washington, and rainforest type stuff. Lots of ferns, lots of mosses. And there's a video at the end of this of the owl, and you'll see all of the moss and whatnot growing on the trees. We get a lot of rain here. And so here I am. I'm actually just ad-libbing some of these flowers. They're not even all on there, because I didn't draw every single thing. And if I want the resist to contain the dye, I have to draw a complete line around the shape that I'm going to be filling in with dye. But if I'm not intending for the dye to be held back by the line, I can get really, really light and really, really detailed and draw things like eyelashes and stuff like that. But for the most part in this piece, the lines are a little bit thicker. The applicator tip that is on the top of this bottle is actually a mechanical pencil top. And I think I've said that a few times, but you can get those in different sizes. So here is the piece after I'd started painting, and I wanted to show the shading and everything on the owl. And So you would have time to look at that while I am continuing to do some painting. And I'm painting with silk dyes. They're a special dye formulated for silk and wool that work the best on these types of animal fibers. I do not know why a cocoon has the same biological structure as sheep's wool, but it does. And for those of you that are wondering about my comment, silk actually comes from cocoons. So here I am painting in some of the trees, and some of the logs are brown or they've aged to this deep red rust color, and some of them are very, very green, like the vine maple stays green all throughout its growing. And so I've got a combination of trees and a combination of leaf designs and a combination of stem designs to show all the different types of greenery that grow. I also have some bees in this picture. And I also have a couple of dragonflies. I like to show a variety of different things in my pieces. So if I'm going to draw an owl, I want to have some supportive characters, if you will, such as the dragonfly. In my case, I'm doing blue dragonflies. We have a small pond on our property and a couple of small streams actually. One borders our property and one runs to the center of our property. And so we get a lot of these blue dragonflies. I'm told they're attracted to the water. They're blue and green at times, especially when they're near the trees. I think the green kind of reflects off of some of the plant life onto their leaves. And they get to be very big. This dragonfly that I'm drawing here is pretty darn life size. Sometimes they even get larger than that. And I'm mixing the colors, blue and green. I work with a really limited palette. I work with yellow, red, blue, and then black. And then if people start to require a certain color a lot, like coral was one year a real popular color, as was turquoise, I might buy those particular colors specifically because I'm being asked to do a lot of them. Oh, and I do buy brown because the brown colors can be kind of a pain to mix, and if I run out, I want to be able to make more very quickly. And because I do a lot of natural stuff, I'll take brown, the color brown that I buy, and then I'll add red or yellow or blue to it as needed, or black, to get the different shades of brown. But it kind of gives me a jumping point, so I don't have to constantly mix all three colors, red, yellow, and blue, together to get the brown that I want. And here, that was the brown that I put on, and then I added some deep yellow, some yellow gamboge, and then there's some green. And I am diluting and mixing these colors with water. I live on 5 acres. I live on a well, so my water is derived from our well, and so there are no additives to it. We've had it checked several times to make sure it's good water, and it's there's no chlorine and no fluoride in it. So if you're in the city and you're working, or if you know you have hard water, with hard water you may need to add Calgon, and if you're in the city you might need to get distilled water. You want to get water that does not have any chemicals in it, so that it doesn't affect the dyes. And so here I am just doing shading and decorating around the grass before I get down to the grass level. I really like adding different colors. I never have one shape with just one color in it. I always try and mix it, even if I'm just diluting it with water. These dyes are really concentrate, and they dilute up wonderfully and they mix wonderfully. And here I am, you see the white dots. That's because you saw me painting the black resist, but I also added white resist. And in this case, I painted these dots on to give the moss on top of the trees some definition. I like it when there's texture in the piece, and I find that by using different colors of resist, I can often get really neat textures. Oh, and I should say the resist for this piece was a permanent resist. It is intended to stay in the fabric, as is the clear resist. But I also use a water-soluble resist, and that water-soluble resist, because dyes are also made of water, I can add dyes to make them different colors. But in this particular piece, I just use black and white resist. The permanent resist is a little more faithful in that it does not leak as often as the water resist can. I don't find the water resist to be as faithful. So I tend to use the water resist as more decorative pieces, where I'm using a colored resist, like I might use them for lines to make grass, or lines to make different shapes or shadows, like in a garment, if I have drawn a picture of a person, or perhaps in feathers, but I didn't need them for this particular owl. But if I was doing something like a parrot or something with a lot of really bright colors, I might want to have colored resists for that. Anything that actually repels water can be used as resist. I've talked about this a few times. I've actually used Joyce soap. I did that because one of the resists that I was using was really thick and bubbled when I got it wet, and I suspicioned that it was felting soap, which is a really, really thick soap that you make from soap flakes. So I tried just Joyce soap because that's what I happened to have on hand, and it worked wonderfully. It didn't dry all the way, but it didn't come off in the steamer or anything. It held its shape. The only issue I had is that when I painted, because it was still wet, I had to be very careful about how I painted, because if I smeared over the top of it, I would smear the Joyce soap across and that did interfere with the dyes. But as long as I didn't touch the resist, as long as I was a careful painter, it worked well. You can also use soy wax. Soy wax comes out in the steaming process, so you don't have to worry about getting the wax out. You can also use bees or paraffin wax, but those items are a little harder to get out of the silk, given that you have to steam these particular dyes that I'm using in order to set them. So you would have to steam the wax, and that I think might make it a little difficult to get out in the end. So I'm just about done painting the foreground on this piece, and that for me is everything in front of the background. So it's at this point I start to think about what I want the background to look like. I almost always know what I want the foreground to look like. It's the background that I really like to play with, because different background colors can really set off the foreground in amazing ways, and I like to do a lot of trial and error. And in the old days, I would have to use a coloring pencil and or paints or gouache or watercolors to try and figure that out. But now with the computers, I can just take a snapshot of my piece when it's all done and stick it into Procreate, and Procreate will use it as a line drawing. And I've talked about Procreate in the past. If you go to my last recording video I did for YouTube, I actually added some links in there to some artists that I think do a great job of teaching beginning Procreate. There's a lot to it. I could do a video on it, but they've already done a great job, so I don't think I could do any better than they could. So I refer you back to my last video. You can look at the comments underneath my comments underneath the video and see those links. So here I am. I'm going to take a picture from up above on a ladder of the piece, and I'm just going to take that. I took the photograph with my iPad because I'm actually recording this with my phone, and I stuck that into Procreate, and this was the idea I came up with. I actually did 4 or 5 different backgrounds, but I liked that one the best. So here I am trying to emulate that background that you saw that I'd done in Procreate. And the bottom was a very dark green black. I very rarely use straight black. I always add some other color to it. But I should mention that the dyes in my palette that you see me taking from are straight dyes. Those are not diluted dyes. When I say I don't do straight black, it's not that I don't put full strength black on my piece. It's that I add other colors to it. And in this case, I'm adding some olive green. And I use more of the same on the next level, except my basic premise here is to make each layer a little bit lighter. So this layer area that I'm working in, I'm doing it in a, there's more olive green than there is black. You can see on the right-hand side around the leaves and on the right-hand side of the butterfly that there's definitely more green than there is black. And just getting into all the little nooks and crannies to make sure the dye spreads. And you have to work kind of fast, because if the dye dries on your piece, it creates a dark line, which you can use to your advantage at times. But in this particular case, I want the whole piece to be, the whole background not to have those lines in it. So I'm working hard to make sure they don't happen. So I skipped ahead to the very top where it's a much lighter green. The premise being that the dark part of the picture on the bottom is all in shadow, and as you get higher, you get closer to sunlight, so the greens are going to get lighter and lighter and lighter. I actually had a little bit of a lighter green behind the owl initially, but I had to darken it up because I thought that the owl was starting to get a bit too camouflaged. And indeed, the owl was very camouflaged. In the video at the end, you'll see we had a hard time finding him. So that is the computer aided image, and this is my hand-painted image, so you can see the differences. Here's a picture of me rolling up the silk to steam it, to steam set the dyes. Here's a picture of my homemade steamer that I use to steam set the dyes. Here's pictures of me washing, rinsing, patting the silk dry in a white towel and hanging it over a plastic chair. Once dry, it can be ironed and hemmed. Here's a picture of me hemming the scarf. And here's a picture of the finished scarf. It's a short video that I did highlighting the different colors and the different elements of the scarf, including the dragonflies. There's 2 dragonflies, and the frame, the magnetic frame that I hang them from. You don't have to change the scarf in any way. You can wear the scarf in the morning and hang it up and show it in your house that afternoon. The piece just came out lovely. And the next short video is of the owl in the ravine behind our house. Thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe if you want to see more.